Fanatics also reported a 100% increase in sales for WNBA specific merchandise. It started with Caitlin Clark. And so now that we know all of this, and we've known that for months, now we get to turn around and look and see what exactly is it that the league will do knowing that she's out for the next 2 weeks. I'm not saying I know for sure what's going to happen, but I have an idea.
Just when the world believed they had reached the pinnacle, riding a wave of unprecedented success and universal adulation, it all came crashing down in a single devastating moment. A shocking revelation, a sudden brutal challenge that didn't just derail a career, but sent seismic tremors through an entire industry, threatening to unravel everything. But this wasn't merely bad luck or an unfortunate turn of events. No, this was a catastrophe waiting to happen, a self-inflicted wound so predictable, so glaringly obvious that one of the most powerful voices in their sphere had been screaming about it for months, their warnings echoing like ignored prophecies. This icon, it seems, has finally learned the harsh lesson of taking everything for granted, and what's coming next for their legacy as the truth emerges and the consequences cascade might just be their most painful public reckoning yet. This isn't just a story of fame, it's a chilling cautionary tale about unchecked ego, squandered opportunity, and the dangerous price of denial.
Unfortunately, though, the celebration in the WNBA, it was cut short yesterday afternoon as WNBA players learned the harsh lesson: be careful what you wish for. Headline at the New York Post: Caitlin Clark sidelined with Indiana Felines announcing shock injury. Keyword: shock. This injury was shocking, but not for reasons that you may think.
Before this seismic halt, there was one name on everyone's lips: Caitlin Clark. She wasn't just a player, she was a cultural phenomenon, a one-woman economic stimulus package that single-handedly dragged women's basketball from a niche curiosity into the blazing spotlight of mainstream appointment television. Overnight, millions who had never watched a single WNBA game were tuning in, captivated by her audacious, jaw-dropping play, her audacious half-court heroics, and her undeniable magnetic charisma. Stadiums that had once seen sparse, scattered crowds were now selling out faster than rock concerts, with some teams scrambling to move games to massive NBA-sized arenas just to accommodate the crushing, unprecedented demand.
Everybody was moving Caitlin Clark games to bigger facilities because everyone was selling tickets. There were ratings. It was a ratings bonanza. Now with Caitlin Clark not playing, what do? Well, when you change your situs, guess what? You can't change it back.
Yep.
All
the tickets are literally half the price, and there are entire sections of the stadium that have not sold any tickets.
The numbers alone are mind-boggling, painting a stark, undeniable picture of her impact. Games featuring Clark averaged nearly 1.2 million viewers, an almost unbelievable 200% increase over games without her. We're talking about a transformation so profound, so sudden, it had people rescheduling their dinner plans, canceling other engagements simply to ensure they wouldn't miss a moment of her electrifying performances. She didn't just play basketball, she redefined women's sports, creating a ratings bonanza, a merchandising frenzy, and a cultural conversation that resonated far beyond the confines of the court. The WNBA, a league that had fought valiantly for mainstream relevance for over 2 decades, had, in a flash, found its unexpected, undeniable savior.
Thanks to Clark, Indiana led the league in attendance both at home and on the road. The Fever averaged 17,035 fans at home and over 15,000 on the road. 4 teams moved home games to bigger arenas when Indiana came to town to accommodate more fans. That's about Caitlin Clark. How do we know this? Attendance for the entire league was up nearly 50% last year, according to data from across the timeline, and Indiana led all teams with an average attendance of 17,035. That was up 319% from the year earlier.
But beneath the surface of this newfound dazzling glory, a venomous, unsettling current was silently brewing. Not everyone within the established WNBA welcomed Clark's meteoric, almost overnight rise. Whispers of resentment grew louder, evolving into open hostility, fueled by the uncomfortable, undeniable truth that one young player fresh out of college was drawing more attention, more headlines, and more marketing dollars than hardened veterans and established legends who had toiled for years in relative obscurity. This simmering tension didn't stay confined to the locker rooms. It erupted onto the court, where Clark often faced aggressive, even reckless physical play that pushed and frequently crossed the boundaries of fair competition.
We'll find out. We don't know yet, but I'm going to be really, really interested in seeing, Molly, what kind of effect this has on the WNBA's ratings, because if for some reason there is a precipitous drop-off, then everybody needs to stand down and recognize the fact that the speculation or the assertions and assumptions about her being the golden goose is validated.
Fans and critics watched in disbelief as she was repeatedly elbowed, hip-checked, and targeted with what many described as blatant, intentional fouls. It felt less like competitive basketball and more like a calculated, brutal attempt to send a chilling message to humble a rising star. The WNBA, for its part, seemed to turn a blind eye, allowing a dangerous narrative to take root, allowing their most valuable asset to be repeatedly treated like a punching bag. They allowed the physicality to escalate, the fouls to go unpunished, and the unspoken tensions to fester. And while the league's leadership stood by, seemingly paralyzed by inaction, one outspoken analyst watched with growing fury, his frustration building to a volcanic, inevitable eruption. He saw the cracks forming, the storm gathering, and he wouldn't stay silent.
Became the first rookie with at least 25 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds in a playoff game. That was Caitlin Clark. Became the fourth different rookie to play all 40 minutes in a playoff game. That was her. I'm looking at other things. 6 different league television partners. This is last year. This is last season, because this is Caitlin Clark that we're talking about. 6 different league television partners set viewership records that year, her rookie year, for its highest viewed WNBA game. Do you know every one of those games included the Indiana Fever?
But here's where it gets really spicy, folks. Stephen A. Smith isn't just upset about the injury. He's been...
Enter Stephen A. Smith, the man who has consistently, passionately, and often furiously defended Caitlin Clark since the very moment she stepped onto the WNBA court, while others within the WNBA establishment, from commentators to veteran players to even the league's own brass, danced around the obvious, trying to be politically correct or protect established egos. Smith was screaming the unvarnished truth from the rooftops. Clark was not just a player, she was quite literally carrying the league on her back, and the league was, in a staggering display of short-sightedness, failing spectacularly to acknowledge or protect her. He saw the subtle slights, the open resentment, the increasingly aggressive fouls, and the lukewarm, almost embarrassed marketing efforts.
Rising tide lifts all boats. And if this is the magnetic traction that draws viewers to the WNBA, and her absence over the next 2 weeks to that court due to that quad strain is providing further evidence of that, then everybody needs to accept it, stand down, and ride that wave. I'm going to be really interested in seeing how the ratings are going to look without her over the next 2 weeks. Let's make sure we come back and ask me this exact same question after she's been gone for those 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He warned repeatedly that the WNBA was playing with fire, neglecting their golden goose in a dangerous game of pride versus prosperity. His predictions were chillingly precise, almost prophetic. If the league continued to take her for granted, if they allowed her to be assailed and battered on the court without protection, they would inevitably pay a heavy, perhaps ruinous price. He foresaw a devastating, precipitous plummet in ratings, attendance, and overall relevance should Clark ever be sidelined. A prophecy that felt dramatic, perhaps even hyperbolic at the time, but now echoes with a brutal, undeniable, and truly painful truth. He was the Cassandra of basketball, and his warnings went tragically unheeded.
We know what she brings to the table, but people wanted to hate because why? You had a bunch of players in this league that watched this young white girl come along and take the league by storm, and they resented it because they saw the marketing prowess that she had. They ignored the fact that you got chartered flights because of this girl. They ignored the fact that ratings were going through the roof because of this girl. Instead, they resented it because they said, yo, we were doing stuff long before Caitlin Clark got here, and y'all wasn't paying attention then. But now the young white girl comes along, and y'all want to sit up there and shower all of this praise and all of this attention that was earned before she ever came along. The resentment is understandable, but it's not about Caitlin Clark. It's about what she represents. My point is, grow up.
The devastating fallout is no longer a theoretical concern. It's a chilling, undeniable reality unfolding in real time. With Caitlin Clark now sidelined, the numbers are telling a story of catastrophic decline, a harsh lesson in dependence. Imagine this: games without Clark, which once struggled for even minimal attention, now draw a paltry 394,000 viewers, a precipitous, almost unthinkable drop from the millions she commanded just weeks prior. The contrast is stark, unforgiving, a 1 to 99% gap so wide you could drive a freight train through it. Tickets for upcoming marquee matchups, games that were once sold out within minutes of going on sale, drawing huge crowds and national attention, are now being offered at half price, with entire sections of massive arenas sitting starkly empty.
Look, I think Stephen A is 100% correct on this. At the end of the day, you already see people actually saying, hey, I'm not watching for 2 weeks. I'm not tuning in for 2 weeks. And it's really bad news for the Mystics and the Sky, because both of those teams moved those games to big arenas. So it's like, now that she's not playing, what is that attendance going to look like? The viewership, right? The viewership is going to plummet. I already know, because majority of the people that's watching the Indiana Fever wants to see Caitlin Clark. And sad to say it, a lot of them only want to see Caitlin Clark. They don't really care about the entire team.
The Indiana Fever, once the epicenter of the WNBA's exploding popularity, a team transformed into a must-see spectacle, now risks fading back into uncomfortable obscurity. Just another team in a league suddenly struggling desperately for even a sliver of public attention. This isn't just about one team losing its star player, it's about the entire WNBA facing a staggering multi-million-dollar financial earthquake. Millions in potential revenue from broadcasting deals, from major network sponsorships, from merchandise sales, and from ticket sales are now hanging precariously in the balance. It's a stark, undeniable reminder of who truly fuels this league's newfound success, and how quickly it can all vanish.
The Fever and the Liberty, peaking at 3.2 million viewers. 3.2. And again, second most viewed game on CBS ever. I have no idea what the most viewed game was ever.
But here's the truly infuriating, the utterly maddening part, the element that has Stephen A. Smith absolutely unhinged and vindicated. This unfolding catastrophe, this spectacular implosion could have been entirely prevented. Not the injury itself, as injuries are an unavoidable, brutal reality in the world of professional sports, but the magnitude of its impact, the staggering loss of momentum, and the sheer likelihood of her being injured could have been mitigated, if not entirely avoided. For months, Clark was subjected to a relentless barrage of flagrant fouls, dangerous plays, and outright physical assaults. She was hacked, elbowed, and targeted with shocking impunity. The WNBA, in what can only be described as corporate malpractice on a grand scale, allowed it to happen.
You literally cannot make this up. When she's not playing, ticket prices, merchandise sales plummet. Viewership declines when she is not suited up in uniform. The numbers do not lie, guys. Caitlin Clark is the biggest box office attraction in the WNBA, period. Facts over feeling.
They failed to impose stricter penalties. They failed to send a clear, unequivocal message that their golden goose, their literal cash cow, would be protected. Instead of wrapping her in bubble wrap, metaphorically speaking, instead of treating her like the priceless commodity she undeniably is, the league allowed opponents to treat her like a target, a punching bag, a human obstacle to be violently cleared. This wasn't merely poor management or a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a profound, short-sighted business blunder, an act of self-sabotage that sacrificed the league's surging, unprecedented momentum on the altar of misguided pride, internal politics, and a baffling reluctance to fully embrace their own success. They took their most valuable asset for granted. They allowed her to be brutalized, and now they're paying a price that could reverberate for years to come.
I mean, with Caitlin Clark being out of the picture, you know what's already happened in the WNBA? Yeah, that's right. those ticket prices went way, 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 way down. And you would think most of the ladies in the league would want to wish Caitlyn a very speedy and successful recovery, because without her in that league, it's going back to where it was before she even got drafted to the Indiana Fever.
The fan reaction, already palpable and growing by the hour, is a harsh, undeniable testament to the WNBA's colossal misjudgment. The millions of new viewers, the legions of casual fans who started watching specifically for Caitlin Clark, who were drawn into the league by her undeniable star power, are now openly threatening boycotts. Social media platforms are ablaze with comments from frustrated, disillusioned fans who feel utterly betrayed by a league that allowed their new favorite player to be treated with such flagrant disregard. For many of these newly converted basketball enthusiasts, the WNBA without Clark feels like a jarring regression, like going back to black and white television after experiencing the dazzling vibrancy of color for the very first time. The Clark effect was a delicate, intricate ecosystem, a fragile bridge connecting the league's past struggles to a potentially glorious future. The league's baffling inability to protect its central magnetic element has now not just damaged, but potentially shattered that bridge. The immediate challenge isn't just to survive her absence, it's to figure out how to win back an audience that feels abandoned, an audience that may never, despite the league's best efforts, truly return. This is more than a momentary dip, it's a foundational crisis of trust and engagement. So, here we stand at a critical juncture for an entire league. The WNBA is now forced to confront a brutal, undeniable reality, one that Stephen A. Smith has been shouting about for months, his voice hoarse with frustration and foresight. They had their savior, a player who almost single-handedly injected unprecedented life, relevance, and staggering viewership into their league, and in a baffling display of hubris and negligence, they took her for granted. They chose to ignore the clear warnings, to downplay her monumental impact, and to fundamentally fail in their duty to protect their most valuable asset. Now, as the ratings plummet, as the ticket prices crash to unsustainable lows, and as the once packed arenas stand eerily empty, the WNBA is about to find out, in the most painful way imaginable, what life truly looks like without the player who single-handedly built their promising newfound future. The question isn't just if they can survive this self-inflicted wound, this profound act of corporate negligence. It's whether they truly deserve to, after such a colossal and entirely preventable misjudgment. What does this devastating turn of events mean for the future of women's basketball as a whole? Can a league that stumbled at its moment of greatest opportunity ever truly recover its lost momentum? Only time and the rapidly declining viewership numbers will deliver the harsh, undeniable verdict. The immediate pain of this situation is undeniably evident, but the true agony for the WNBA is yet to fully unfold. This isn't a mere 2-week blip on the radar, a temporary dip in viewership that will simply rebound once their star returns. No, this is a deep, festering wound that threatens to leave a permanent, disfiguring scar on the league's burgeoning reputation and financial health. The casual fans, the millions who were drawn in by the sheer spectacle of Clark's genius, by her undeniable star power, were the league's future. They represented the expansion, the growth, the elusive mainstream appeal they had sought for decades. Now, many of them are gone, perhaps forever, their trust shattered, their newly ignited interest evaporating like smoke. How do you rebuild when the very foundation you just laid with such effort and promise has been so carelessly, so inexplicably undermined? How do you convince major sponsors to commit millions, broadcasters to invest precious airtime, when your biggest draw was left exposed, is now sidelined, and the enthusiasm she ignited has been so recklessly extinguished? The WNBA faces an uphill climb that dwarfs any challenge it has ever known, a brutal, exhausting battle for relevance that was almost won, then tragically, inexplicably thrown away. This devastating miscalculation, this profound act of self-sabotage will haunt the league for years, a chilling, persistent reminder of the golden opportunity they let slip through their fingers, leaving behind only the agonizing echo of what could have been.